It is my absolute honor and pleasure to introduce Medal of Honor awardee, Master Sergeant retired Earl Plumlee. Yep.
Thank you. Take your seats. We're on the clock here. Thank you so much. All right, so I always decide what I'm going to talk about by all the questions I get from the audience. So if you don't like my presentation, that's your own fault. Due to popular demand, I will cover how I ended up working for Tony Bell as a Green Beret. So I came from a military family. I was always going to serve. Depending on which movies were out, that's what I was going to do. So I've gone from fighter pilot to Navy SEAL to Force Reconnaissance Marine. Rock, the movie, really sold me on that. And anyway, two very influential mentors to me as a young man. The sheriff and district attorney of Beckham County decided that I would serve in the Marine Corps. So that's how I ended up in the infantry. Had a great time. I got sent out to Hawaii. A lot of people don't consider that punishment. Too bad. And ultimately became a Force Reconnaissance Marine. Did 4 deployments for the Marine Corps, all to Iraq. Nowhere nice. But kind of got the hook set for Army Special Operations. I had another mentor, a Force Reconnaissance Marine, explain to me the mission and authorities for Special Operations and explained to me why I was so frustrated in the Marine Corps. He's like, if you want to support the world's most elite infantry, congratulations, you have that job. If you want to be your own force to be reckoned with on the battlefield, you should go to the Army and serve in Special Operations. And, said fine. Nobody calls Marty McFly chicken. So I came back from my last deployment in the Marine Corps on terminal leave, went to the Army recruiter. I was a civilian for 12 hours and joined the Army as an 18 X-ray. Went to the Q course. Did not know that you had to speak a foreign language to be a Green Beret. I found that out after I got selected. I thought it was just a good to have. I didn't know that you had to. So I was very terrified, but the Army's had dumber guys than me, so they locked me in a room with an 80-pound Indonesian woman, and she beat the Bahasa into me. At this point, I didn't know the Q course was a year long either. Every school I'd been to was a few months, so I was really terrified in 2010 that the war was going to end. So I was very excited to get assigned to 1st Special Forces Group, Airborne, and had some Green Berets I knew that were in 2nd Battalion, so I was hitting them up. They were about to deploy, and I just knew they needed a super high-end assaulter like myself. They didn't care. I went to 4th Battalion. I didn't know that groups had battalions, but I found out they did, and was absolutely devastated to find out that I was joining a battalion that had nobody in it, wasn't going to deploy anywhere for 3 years, and was utterly terrified the war was going to end. First day there, the building literally didn't have that many people. I met this super energetic, extremely short Sergeant Major. I didn't even know how he got in the Army, so short. But it ended up being just a huge part of how I became as a leader, who I wanted to be as a Green Beret, and God works in mysterious ways. Nominated me for the Medal of Honor, Tony Bell, sitting in the back. Yeah, please. Yeah, if I'm a success in life, he's the author. So I think one of the most awkward things for me is I wasn't even the best Green Beret there at that battle. I've been several others, so it was always weird to me that they picked me to wear the medal. There's much better men. Tony's a better speaker. Mark Colbert's better looking.
That was funny.
Drew Busick's weird. I'm probably better than he is, so I'll chalk that one up. Anyway, he tells me, I don't know why he liked me. You'll have to ask him. He decided that he was going to put me in his special company on his special team. I was super pumped because I'm still geeking out that I'm actually in a real SOCOM unit, and he's leading me through this labyrinth, brand new facility. As a Marine, I'd never seen a brand new building. And he's putting codes in and swinging doors open, and I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. kicks open what I later found to be a team room door, and there's no furniture in it. There's one old man with a laptop computer and a swivel chair, and he's like, "This is your ODA. We're getting some good dudes and some furniture next week. We're gonna do big things, and I'll be down here pretty soon as a sergeant major. You're gonna love it." And he left me in a room with Chief Mark Colbert. So there, I'm still having a panic attack because we have no furniture, we have no guns. I've never even seen a warrant officer before because we don't really do that in the Marine Corps, and the war's going to end any day now. You know, obviously we know now that the war was going to last 20 years, so didn't need to be that worried about it. And we'll skip all this cool Indo-PACOM stuff, and we'll go right to the good part. So my ODA deploys to Afghanistan. There's 2 missions at this time for Green Berets. The commando mission, which is a super cool one. When people think special operations, they obviously think the commando mission. Black helicopters, landing on the X, storming off, killing the bad guys, and you smoke cigars on the helicopter and land back at base, and it's awesome. The other mission I wasn't super pumped about, which is the village stability platforms. That's a true Green Beret mission. I didn't know that as a young E6. I just wanted to storm the gates with my battle buddies. But my team gets picked to do a village stability platform, or district stability platform, DSP. And we live in an Afghan village, a single team, and we have an Afghan special forces team with us, and we got to fix everything. And by everything, I mean we got to stop the police from robbing people from the police stations. We got to get the roads paved. We got to try and keep the electricity going so that the well has water. Prenatal deaths, so we got to make all the pregnant women eat vitamins, and also fight the Taliban. And I loved it. I was like, because every day they'd come and give me some weird problem to solve, and most of the time you couldn't solve it with a rifle. And I really fell in love with being a Green Beret. Originally, I thought that I was going to go be a Delta Force operator, and Green Beret was my safety school. But on that trip, probably about a month in, I was like, I'm never leaving this. This is where I'm supposed to be. I love, here's some money, go figure out why that thing doesn't work, go do it. And as an E6, I'd never even seen, I can just by myself, and my team sergeant was like, well, I got other things to do, you go do it. So we're solving the infant death mortality, building a super cool platform, and my team sergeant came, he's like, hey, we really should get after the Taliban. I was like, yeah, I agree. He's like, well, you're the senior weapons sergeant, come up with something and get after it. And, I had a Green Beret, but I was still mostly a Force Recon Marine. I was like, what do you want me to do? And he's like, stuff. He's like, figure out what the Taliban would hate and do that. I was like, all right. So I came up with a plan. We're going to teach every woman in the district how to read, because the Taliban will absolutely hate that. He's like, yeah, but we need to get it done in a couple months because we're going to be here for 6 months, so maybe something more aggressive. I was like, well, I know how to do ambushes. Let's go do ambushes. So I'm doing ambushes on the Taliban, and we're fighting it out. I have cigars in my MP5, and living my best life. Wearing my unauthorized vest, wearing it every day. And sooner or later, that little sergeant major flies back in. I always tease him for being little, but every room that Tony Bell's been in, he fills it up. So he lands, I can hear him. The helicopter is still, going under power and leaving it, and I can tell that Tony Bell has landed because I can hear him. And he's yelling my name. For most organizations, if your sergeant major's yelling your name, that's bad. But I've just been absolutely crushing it, so I know that I'm about to get a medal. Or something. Something good's gonna happen, because I haven't been doing anything but the strongest work. So, Tony Bell pulls me up, and he's like, hey, I got a question for you. I get 80% of the vote, you get 20, but I like to hear what you have to say. And he said, you can go home, or you can come work for me on the B team. And nobody goes to selection to do either of those jobs. But I figured if I was deployed, maybe James would trip and sprain his ankle, and then that team would get a super cool Special Forces sniper. That's what I was. So I picked the AOB. I'm going to go work for Tony Bell. And so monstrous high, epic low. So now, the teams are calling me because they're not getting the ammo that they wanted, even though they didn't request it. So I don't know how I was supposed to know what they wanted. And, Sergeant Major Bell wants me to build this range, gives me a crazy person that I have to keep track of. Said, whatever you do, don't let him get in trouble. And all he wanted to do was get in trouble. So I, throw myself right back into it. And we're going to take a picture for the deployment. And, I brought it up once or twice, so I'll bring it up again. I was a Special Forces sniper. It's a big deal. And so I get my favorite rifle. It's painted perfectly. Get all my best kit. And I'm holding the AOB flag. And I want everybody to know forever and ever that when they see that picture that I was a super cool sniper. That was also the day the Taliban decided that they were going to attack our camp. Bad luck for them. If they'd attacked the day before, I'd have just had my pistol, but they attacked the day that we took our change of command photo, so I had all my gear ready. Hanging out at the company headquarters and hanging out with the AOB medic, we're both lamenting the fact that our skills are being wasted in the AOB. If they just put us in the field, we get this war wrapped up rather quickly. And we both just get flattened by a huge explosion. We were both under the assumption that indirect fire had hit the building we were in. We're getting up. All the med supplies are on the shelves, or on the floor now, and we're just kind of kicking through it. And I'm like, are you okay? He's like, yeah, I'm good. Are you okay? I'm like, you bet. So I open the door because I want to tell everybody that we're fine so they don't come running over, trying to help us, wasting everybody's time. I open the door, and the entire camp is just covered with a thick pall of dust. It was a pretty morning like this when I went in, and now you can't see 30 feet. Start hearing machine gun fire, start hearing RPGs detonating, and I look over my shoulder, and I see a mushroom cloud that's very nearly 2,000 feet in the air, which you don't see very often. Ultimately what it was a cement truck with 3,500 to 4,500 pounds of explosives in it, depending on who was cooking. They parked it next to the base and detonated it and instantly launched an assault force of 12 to 15 guys through that breach. I didn't know that yet. I was just really impressed by this huge explosion. Wowzers. Anyway, since I'm lazy and a sniper, I've got all my gear right here because I didn't put it up after the picture. So I jump in my vest, grab my super cool sniper rifle, and I'm figuring out what am I going to do. About that time, one of our guys pulled back in a super cool Toyota pickup truck. He'd been getting the mail. The Taliban thought that a shiny black truck was cool to shoot at, which stressed him out. Doesn't bother me, bothered him a lot. So he comes whipping back in. He must have seen me and knew I needed a truck because he left the keys in the ignition and the motor running. And I start taking a step over to it. Another friend of mine from the AOB, Nate Abkemeyer, he's like, I'm driving. And I was like, of course you are. I'm a super cool sniper. I can't be wasting my efforts behind the wheel. So I hop in the passenger seat. We turn the stereo on. I'm trying to find a good go-to-war song. He trainee drops, and we almost run over Drew Busick on a four-wheeler. So his story almost ended right there. And he's on a four-wheeler, ready to go. He's got an MP5 and 2 magazines. And I'm like, hey, Drew, get in with us. You're going to get shot up on that four-wheeler. So he hops in with us, scoots all the company's mail. This comes in later. We took all the company's mail to the battle. So it's all in the back of this truck. He scoots it all over. We hop in, and we tear off for the gate. And as we're leaving the gate, I realize that I'm the AOB weapons sergeant, and my job is the base security and to implement the plan. But I made a plan. Everybody that I outranked knows it. Everybody that didn't doesn't. That's the only people I could get to show up to my drills were the E4s and below. But as we're going out the gate, I'm like, I'm kind of in charge of this. But I knew I worked for Tony Bell, and I was like, he'll forgive me as long as I go and do something dynamic and get after the enemy. He'll be cool with this. So we pull through the gate. I'm going to lock the gate. At least I'm going to do that one part. People aren't just going to come in. So I was like, you guys pull forward. I'll lock the gate. They pull forward. I start locking the gate. I come through the foot gate, and Nate and Drew are super emotional because that weird black truck's back, and every Taliban fighter that's in this hotel across the camp thinks it's really cute that they came back, so they start shooting that truck up. and Nate and Drew hate it. We hop in, start pulling off again, taking some fire as we're pulling down this little road, and we see our company warrant, a medic from another team. They're on a four-wheeler. They're waving, hey, you guys going to the gunfight? We're like, yeah, we're going. You going? Like, yeah, we're coming. And we tear off down the road, and we head toward the mushroom cloud. It's still there, and we're going to see what's going on down there. As we get to the last, we call it the last covered and concealed position. So the last road before it opens up into the airfield. I have Nate slow down because I got my $10,000 sniper rifle. I'm going to climb this wall and do movie style stuff. Got my radio, put it in, ready to crow down. That's one. Keep track somebody on the net. And as we slow down, Chief Colbert and Matt Horde pull past us on the four-wheeler, and they break that corner, and they're both instantly hit by small arms fire. And I see rounds impacting all around them. I see them both get hit and go down. But we have a battle drill for that. You pull in between where the fire is coming from and where it's going to, and block those guys. So Nate starts that procedure. At this point, I can see the base of fire just past the breach that the Taliban has. They had a couple machine guns and a couple RPGs. I thought that's where the fire was coming from. So I kick my door open, and we pull right in the middle of about 12 Taliban fighters. Didn't figure it out right away because they were dressed like Afghan army. And so at first I was like, yeah, well, perfect. These guys are lost. I'm a Green Beret. I'll lead foreign troops. I'll get these guys turned around. But they could see I was confused, so they went ahead and made it clear for me. So they all faced inboard and started to shoot our truck up, which got Nate rattled. I was fine. Didn't bother me. But there's about 80 dents in that ceiling from my rifle as I was shaking it back and forth, trying to rattle it out. Get my super cool sniper rifle out, present it to the enemy, pull the trigger, fire one round, and it jammed. I mean, I was bummed as well. But I've been beat to death mercilessly by the Marine Corps and the Army. The rifle goes down, the pistol comes out. So I hung my rifle down, pulled my pistol, and I figure this is Nate and Drew's problem to solve. I'll buy him as much time as I can, and I start closing with the enemy with my pistol. Doing the most stressful El Prez ever, just giving everybody a couple rounds and moving into them. Surprised me and confounded the Taliban. I kept hitting them. They never hit me. But now my pistol's empty, and I'm pretty much right in the middle of them. I know. Yeah, bummer. I didn't have my gun belt. All my pistol mags are back in the front seat of the truck. I know, double bummer. But I brought a hand grenade, and that's a cool party trick. So I pull my hand grenade out and just chuck it toward the nearest fighter. He was super surprised. Actually, he wasn't surprised. He was pretty cool cucumber. He just picked me up under his sights of his AK and just started firing at me as I ducked behind this empty water tank. His friends were surprised, though. They all took off. They're doing 440s somewhere else. Went to work on my rifle, locked the bolt back, pulled the mag, cleaned all that stuff out, put in a fresh mag, locked it forward about the time the grenade detonated. If you're not impressed by that, to me, that's the coolest part of the story. Because I cleared a complex malfunction in my rifle in 3 to 5 seconds, and that's validated by the manufacturer of U.S. hand grenades. It's like, send that bolt home, the grenade detonates, and I just see this guy twirling through the air, which also, you don't really see that very often, so I was kind of like, oh, wow. I wish somebody was here to see this besides me. As I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do next, I start hearing that snap thump of AK fire. It's hitting the wall behind me. So I turn to my left, I look out, and there's a guy on the airfield. He's in a sling supported prone position, just driving him in. I don't know if he had a bad zero or if he was just nervous, but he put about 4 or 5 rounds in a nice little group on the wall, which is pretty strong work for a Pakistani AK. But, I don't know if I mentioned it yet, I was a Special Forces sniper. So I took a knee, held the center notch of his neck, pulled the trigger, and just vaporized him off this earth. which scared the hell out of me, because usually when you shoot people, they don't explode. So I thought a Polish tank had come up and hit him with the main gun. I started looking around to figure out what happened, and that's when there's nobody out there but me still, and it dawned on me that I just shot a suicide vest with my sniper rifle and detonated it, and I'm like, boom. This is Dear Diary. I've got it in my hip pocket. I don't have time to fill it out right now, but I'm like, hey, mental note, write this down, because every sniper on the planet wants to shoot a suicide vest and detonate it and have that story, and now I've got mine. I didn't know I was about to get it a whole lot more, but for right now, I'm pumped. As I'm still looking around, I can hear the guys behind me, screaming for a medic. Chief's hit, Matt's hit, I'm hit. So I'm like, well, I can't go back around this corner because these guys will just be right on top of us. And whatever they're trying to do, they probably didn't plan to bring me, so I'll just go be a nuisance. So I go down this lane where these 4 or 5 fighters took off running. I get about halfway down this little thing, and they all hang muzzles, and they start shooting at me again. And I start shooting back. Unfortunately, I was a super cool sniper, and I brought the longest gun on the planet with a 15 by 25 power scope, and we're all at 20 feet from each other, so it's super difficult for me to get the work done, but I'm doing my best. So I'm shooting back and forth, giving everybody a little love, and run out of ammo again. Because $10,000 sniper rifles are good at some things, but suppressing people during a gunfight is not really what they do, so I ran out of ammo. And my pistol's empty, so I only got one move, knife fighting or reload my rifle. And I chose reload the rifle. I don't really practice knife fighting that often. So I dumped my magazine. As soon as I dumped that mag and pulled my muzzle up, the nearest fighter to me throws his rifle into a sling, screams, Allah Akbar, and starts sprinting toward me. And he's about from here to that exit sign. I was slightly concerned. I didn't hear what he had to say, but I was getting his drift. Unfortunately for him, I practiced reloading a lot more than he practiced sprinting, because he got about halfway there as I got a mag in. I pull the muzzle down and just start hammering away and detonate his vest, which he was a little close to me, but he was a lot closer to him. Blew me down, I guess TKO. I was trying to figure out why there was so much rocks and sand in my bed and why everybody was screaming. As I look up, I see another fighter walking down on top of me, grinning like a tomcat and driving rounds in. Unfortunately, he was so excited to shoot me, he forgot to use his sights, so all his rounds are landing about 10, 15 inches short. I pull my gun up, hammer away at him, fold him up, get to my feet, start giving his buddies a couple rounds to think about, and I ran out of ammo again. Yep, that's what I said. So I dump my magazine, and I sprint back to that water tank. It's at the corner of where I jumped out of that truck, and I get reloaded just as I hit it. And I run around that corner, and I smash right into Drew Busick. Drew's been back in the back of the truck. This miraculous story, every time they missed me, they hit Drew. He's a little bitter about it. Don't bring it up if you ever meet him. Also, all the company mail is just getting shot to pieces. And Drew's bleeding all over it. Made us, real unpopular in the company. Anyway, I'm like, hey, Drew, I know right where they're at. Let's go get them. And he's like, okay, let's go. He pulls out, goes long across the hall for me. He's on the left. I'm on the right. And this is way cooler because we never go anywhere alone. We don't fight alone. So I'm much more comfortable now that I got my battle buddy. I'm codependent. I can't even go to the bathroom by myself after 25 years in the military. But we got Drew, and we start easing back down to that into the little lane we're in. And that last fighter I shot is all folded up there, and he's just kind of smoking. And Drew's looking like he's going to step across that body. And I was like, hey, Drew, stay away from them. They got suicide vests on. And he heaves up a little, and he looks over, and he's like, what? And I was like, stay away from the bodies. They all have suicide vests. And he's like, And as we're thinking about it, that vest goes low order, which doesn't explode, just burns. But high explosive burns in a pretty spectacular manner. So there's a 20-foot blowtorch just coming up out of this little lane. Drew's afraid of fire, so he ran over where I was at. And we're both behind this little generator panel. It's a little bit bigger than this podium. So it's almost big enough for both of us, but not quite. So we're both trying to shoot. We're getting shot at. And so every time I get a good position, I'm hip checking Drew out. The Taliban thinks it's hilarious because they start lighting him up, which gets him all agitated, and he'll duck in there behind me and kick me out. And we're fighting it out there. And then they suddenly had the good idea, we can get these guys with hand grenades. So each fighter had a little belt that had about 20 hand grenades on it. So they just start chucking hand grenades at us. Luckily for me and Drew, they were overexcited, so they're throwing them so hard that they're hitting the wall behind us and bouncing back in the middle of this little lane. But at this point, neither one of us can really see anything, so we're just kind of shooting into the smoke, just shooting into the fire. And about this time, I get hit right in the top of my plate carrier with something. I look down, it's a hand grenade. They forgot to send the pin, and we're not authorized to use foreign munitions anyway, so I gave it back to them. And as I was messing with that, another one hit the wall behind me, and I felt it jump my legs. It hit me right in the back of the knee. So we looked down. Drew and I both thought we were in charge of kicking hand grenades out of the fighting position. So we both just start booting this thing all over the place. I don't know which one of us got it out of there, but one of us did. And Drew, grabbed me and he's like, "Hey, we gotta get out of here. They're gonna kill us." And he's the company intelligence sergeant, so he's pretty smart. So I'm like, "Yeah, let's go." And we take off running, and we both get blown down by an explosion. And I'm on top of Drew, trying to climb off of him. Get up, rifle. My buttstock's all hammer-jang now. The gun's not really working that great. And we run around the corner again and bump into Mark Colbert. And he's like, "What are you boys doing?" That's the guy that was on the swivel chair when I got to my first ODA. He's the company warrant now. And I thought he was dead because he hit the ground like he was, but he was fine. He did get shot in the butt. So he's got, I can tell everybody, he's got 5 buttholes now, 1 from God and 4 from the Taliban. But he's back in the fight, and he's limping around. And we're like, "Chief, we know right where they're at. Let's go get them." He's like, "All right, let's go get them." We have one Navy SEAL for the story, Lieutenant Termseed. He now arrives. He and Drew know each other. They're high-fiving. So they take that far lane again. Chief's stacked up on me, and I'm super pumped. And I start fishing for a mag. I'm going to reload, and I can't find one. So I look down, and there isn't one. So I'm like, well, it was pretty sporty down there. What do I got? So I pull my rifle mag out, and I got 1 round, which isn't as bad as it sounds because there's 1 in the chamber. So I actually got twice as much ammo. But I was a little concerned, so I tell Chief, I'm like, "Hey, I can't go first. I only got 1 round." And Chief, he's sitting there. He's like, "What?" I'm like, "I'm out of ammo. I only got 1 bullet. Yeah, you go first, and I'll cover you." And he's like, "Yeah, thanks." Apparently, he didn't know I was a Special Forces sniper. But so Chief limps up in front of me, and he's like, "All right, let's do this." And he starts easing around that corner. About this time, I say kid, he was a sergeant in the infantry, Mike Allis of 10th Mountain. He was playing Xbox across the camp, threw his controller down, put on his Oakleys, and has run about 1,400 meters to link up just in time with us. And he says, "Can I come with you guys?" And I'm looking at him. He's in a T-shirt. He's got 1 magazine in his rifle, and he's got sunglasses on. And I was going to tell him, I was like, you only got one rifle mag. Get out of here." And I was like, "That's pretty bold talk from somebody that's only got 1 bullet in their magazine, though." I was like, "Hey, it's pretty bad, but come on." So we ease around this corner. We get down to the junction box again, and not that it's a calm day. The base of fire is still shooting. The hotel has still got a pile of fighters, hammering the camp. But this part's not too bad. Nobody's throwing a hand grenade at me from 10 feet. And Chief Colbert's like, "I think you guys got them all." A lot of people don't know the Taliban has impeccable comedic timing. So as soon as he says, "I think you guys got them all," old boy sits up out of a pile of bodies and bounce passes 2 hand grenades at us and screams "Allah Akbar" and detonates his vest, which gets everybody all excited because they just got here. But I'm not worried about it. But anyway, I did see him throw 2 hand grenades and detonate his vest. I didn't see where the grenades went. So if you don't know where you're going, why would you leave? So I just wrote it out on the wall. So So I'm just going to stand up against this wall. As I'm sitting there, I see a hand grenade roll past me. I'm like, oh, well, shit. But, God takes care of drunks and fools. I'm dual qualified. So it's been working for me so far. I'm just going to tough this one out. And I remembered I wasn't wearing iPro, so I shouldn't look at it when it blows up. So I just look into the wall. And it detonates, and it hurt. But I don't know, nothing got me. But every time a grenade did detonate, it hit Drew. So whenever you ever see Drew Busick, just get away from him. As we're, I'm looking for where everybody went, because now, they basically did a starburst when that guy threw hand grenades at us. And I start hearing AK fire behind us, and I see that a fighter has run all the way around this little lane we're in and attacked the back of us. And he shot Mike Ollis, and he's trying to hit this Polish lieutenant that was with us. And I fire my last 2 rounds at him, and Drew, mag dumps his MP5 on full auto at him. Whether we hit his vest or whether he detonated his vest, either way, his vest detonated probably about 6 to 8 inches from Mike Ollis, which blew him most of the way down this lane to me. At this point, I've got my knife out. I'm super excited to get involved now. And luckily, I took a couple breaths and realized knife fighting guys in suicide vests isn't the best way to live a long, full life. And somebody's got to get Mike off the battlefield, so I decided that would be me. So I put my knife up, grab him, drag him into this compound. It's a Scan Eagle compound, and I'm trying to start working on him, but I'm still a little worried because there's, this whole battle just happened and the gate's still open. The Taliban base of fire is still out there, and I didn't know that we had just killed the last fighter. I didn't find that out for a couple days. So it's nerve-wracking, and I see this civilian. He's behind a generator, and I was like, "Hey, can you run a rifle?" And he's like, "Yeah." So I put my magazine back in, send the bolt home, and I was like, "Watch my back," and I stick him in the gate. I'm always waiting for him to stand up in the back of the room and come punch me in the face. But I figured if anything happened, he'd at least yell, "This gun doesn't work," and I'd be able to turn around. So I start working on Mike. He's in bad shape, and I'm like, well, but we're on base. I can see the hospital. So I load him up in a vehicle. I put this guy in the driver's seat, and I'm like, "Hey, get him to the hospital." And the dude's like, "There's no way in hell I'm going out there." Because when you look out the gate, everything's on fire. Tracers are zipping across the airfield, and there's body parts all over this little apron. Hands, arms, heads. And I was like, "Don't worry, I'll cover you." So I stick my rifle out and give him the go for it. And he zooms out and gets Mike to the hospital. Unfortunately, Mike succumbed to his injuries. He was the only American casualty that day. And, I'm walking around. Our incoming commander, he wasn't the commander yet. He decided he had the same thought as me. I'm not in charge of anything. I'm going to go get in the fight. Major Vince Castor. He wraps me up, and he's like, "What do we got down here?" I kind of tell him a little bit of this story, and I was like, "Well, somebody needs to go handle that machine gun and placement out in town." And he's like, "Well, the Poles got tanks, and this is their fob. We'll let them handle it. Why don't you and me go back to base?" Which I thought was super lame, but he's an officer, and that's the best thing he can come up with. Obviously, I was nominated for the Medal of Honor. I got the Silver Star originally. This is 2013. I'm getting phone calls at least once or twice a year, reinvestigations, and it's always some person from the Pentagon's been tasked with hitting me up about it. And so I kind of got inured to it. I'm like, yep. I figured the further we got from the battle, it would die down and it would just kind of go away. And also, I'm pumped. I have a Silver Star. That's not bad work. But then the calls start getting super weird. About 2020, they're asking where I'm at, what I'm doing. Is this a good number? I'm like, obviously it's a good number. You called it, and I answered it. Bureaucrats. Where are you going to be in 3 or 4 months? And we have a high-level member of the U.S. government that wants to speak with you. And I tell them, I'm like, hey, you're going to get this phone call. We need you not to deploy or go to the field. Do you need us to contact your command to make that happen? I was like, no, I'm an E8, and I got that. hang up on them, instantly deployed to Qatar as Afghanistan fell, and came back and they hit me up again. Hey, this call's going to happen in 6 weeks. I'm like, okay, cool. And then they call me a week later. This call's going to happen in 5 weeks. We need you to be ready for it. And I'm like, I'm a Green Beret. I can operate behind enemy lines and coerce people to work against their own government to serve America's interests. I can answer your phone call, I promise. Hey, in 30 days you're getting this phone call. Like, yep, I'm aware. It's on the calendar, promise. In 3 weeks you're getting a phone call. In 2 weeks you're getting a phone call. And then, hey, in 96 hours you're going to get a phone call. And I'm like, for the love. 48 hours you're going to get a phone call. Yep, I'm aware. In 24 hours, at exactly this time, at exactly this number, you're going to get a phone call. Like, yep, I got you. You called yesterday, I'm aware. And then they call 12 hours out, which was pretty funny. I'm like, sweet, I am ready. And they call me 4 hours before. Hey, in 4 hours, you're getting a phone call. I'm like, yes, yes, I am. And they call me 2 hours prior. This phone's going to ring, and you're getting a phone call. And I'm like, yes, you're right. Yes, ma'am. So an hour before, I get a cup of coffee, I get a cigar, and I go outside of 3rd Battalion, 1st Special Forces Group, light my cigar, phone's fully charged, I got full signal, and I'm just hanging out. About 20 minutes before the phone call, lightning strikes something on the camp, all the electricity goes out, and the phone signal went to nothing. Yeah, I was mildly concerned. Especially I've been slightly discourteous to this person over these months. So I jump in my truck, start driving around. I get to the hospital, and it's got 2 bars, but I'm like, it's a phone call, not a video, so this should work. I'm sitting there, getting the sweat off. I don't want them to see me sweaty. And I'm like, wait a minute, it's a phone call. They can't tell. So exactly when they said they were going to call, my phone rings. It says White House, U.S. government, and goes straight to voicemail. Yeah, and I was like, this would be a fun experiment. How long does it take a disappointed dad look to leave the White House, clear the Pentagon, get to USASOC, come through 1st Special Forces Command, and then come to Joint Base Lewis McChord for somebody to come and choke the shit out of me. So I figure I only got one play. I just call back. So I hit dial back up. Operator answers. White House, how may we help you? And I was like, I just missed a call from this number. And they're like, sir, I think you were spoofed. And I was like, well, I would normally agree, but I was expecting one. And so they say, what's your name and affiliation? I'm like, Master Sergeant Earl Plumlee, U.S. Army. He said, okay, hold for the president. And he picked up on the 2nd ring. So that's my claim to fame. I called him, he didn't call me. And invited me to the White House very cordially. I was just laughing the whole time. I was like, it's an invitation by the president. It's not really an invitation. I thought about being really funny. I can't make that day. Are you free a week later? I don't remember what I said, but I made a joke, and he started laughing. He's like, I don't want anybody to miss this, buddy. I'm gonna put you on speakerphone so everybody can hear it. And I was like, okay. He's like, I don't want it to be weird though, so I'll introduce everybody in the room. It was the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of the Navy, and the Secretary of the Army, and the Chief of Staff of the Army. And he's like, tell that joke again. Like, that too. But I got to go to the White House. This is another one of the questions everybody asks. What it feel like to get the Medal of Honor? It was surreal. And for me, it was just super humbling. I took everybody I could that was there with me, took them to the battle. Sergeant Major Bell was there, Mark Colbert was there, and those are all men that I hope to measure up to one day. I wanted to be an NCO that was half as competent as Tony Bell. I wanted to be almost as good looking as Mark Colbert. I've been working on that for years. But those were all like the people that really sold the organization to me, people I wanted to emulate and that I respected. So it was really humbling to be in that room, receiving an award from the president while those guys looked on. And it was hard for me to wear it because I just, like I said, I wasn't the best Green Beret that was there. I was just the one that got shot last, so I got to get the medal. But that, for me, it was just super humbling to look at those guys and get an award with them. And that's how I felt. That the only reason I got to wear the medal is I got shot last. If I'd got shot first, Mark Colbert would be up here telling you this funny story. He's not as funny as I am, so that's your good luck. And that's how I always felt about it. Man, thank you so much. And I'm gonna have another drink now. Thank you.